YouTube once again. It's K2 to go for Vernon Speak Sports. We're mostly talking Auburn football like nobody else. Want to give a shout out to my fearless and true gang. We get it really active in the comment section. Want to really thank the fearless and true gang for the constant content information in the comment section. Of course, we're not going to always agree, but hey, I appreciate the interaction. War Eagle. We want to think that the SEC conference is one of the better conferences in college football, and the SEC West arguably one of the better sub-conferences, in my honest opinion, in college football because of the physicality and the fierceness of the rivalries. War Eagle. Once again, it's K2 to go for Vernon Speak Sports. Like I said before, we're talking Auburn football like nobody else will. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. And let's get this thing going for the 2019 season. We're talking Oregon Ducks today. I had a chance to look at the spring game for the Oregon Ducks. And some of my previous commentary on Oregon might not have been as precise as I would have liked to have believed. One of the things that I look at when I look at the Oregon Ducks is I'm looking at a very physical and large offensive line. When you go down from, tackle to tackle, you're talking 300 pounds of production, which is very synonymous as to what Auburn faces when, say, facing Alabama or Georgia, maybe even LSU. Very huge offensive line, and they're very physical as well. Looks like they're very active offensive line wise. Also, Oregon is not quite the West Coast offense. They really like to run the football. That's another thing that I like to note when I look at the Oregon Ducks. They're going to be very physical as well. And just like Auburn returned Derek Brown, Oregon returns Troy Dye, who has been very active in the interior linebacker position for the Oregon Ducks. And if you look at Troy Dye, he's definitely a fierce leader of this defense. 313 career tackles. And, you look at his longevity with the Oregon Ducks, you're talking 3 straight seasons as Oregon's leading tackler. Also caught wind of, 34.5 career tackles for a loss. Big shout out for Pac-12 Network for providing that information, which will be huge going into the Advocare Classic, as Auburn will, have this year a viable dual threat quarterback, and it will make for a very interesting matchup. Kayvon Thibodeau turned out to be just as good as advertised. He's going to be a very nice force as well for the Oregon's defense. Now we're going to, as time progresses, we got a little time before we get into deep analysis of this Auburn and Oregon game. But just at, a real quick snapshot. I was kind of listening to or looking at some of the comments from some of my subscribers who happen to be Oregon Ducks fans. And I just had to see it for myself, actually, as it relates to the drop passes. We talk about, Justin Herbert possibly being on the bill for a Heisman Trophy candidacy. One of the items that must change for the Oregon Ducks is the fact that, yes, judging this spring game, these guys dropped the ball a lot, and they dropped the ball in very, very game-changing downfield type situations. They haven't been particularly good on third down receiving, drop passes on third down. Now, if you think about, a game like the Advocare Classic, you definitely want to keep the chains moving. And there was actually a pass in the spring game for the Oregon Ducks where at first glance, it appeared that the receiver was well defended. But after slowing the video down, he missed it. And that's something that's definitely going to have to change for the Oregon Ducks, especially in a game with Auburn, where there's going to be such high consequence. The game is probably going to go back and forth. It's going to be a very physical game. I'm really interested to see the matchup between the Oregon Ducks offensive line and Auburn's presumably elite defensive line. That's going to be the matchup probably of the game. You're talking about the offensive line averaging 300 pounds, and they can move. They're not just 300 pounds worth of slow guys. They really can move. Okay. And I'm really interested in how Troy Dye is going to play, is going to deal with the zone read. Now, that's something that, in the Pac-12, from what I've seen in a few teams, that, that's something that tempo type offense is something that the Oregon Ducks and, those 3-3-5 type defenses are accustomed to. So as the plot thickens, as we head into the Advocare Classic, these are some items, that we definitely want to look at. Justin Herbert obviously is going to want to have a little bit more, not necessarily accuracy, because he throws a good ball. There were a few passes where, could have been questionable in the spring game, but his wide receivers absolutely have to catch the football. A lot of well-designed passing plays, but just drop. That's something that's going to be somewhat of an equalizer in a game like the Advocare Classic. Also, like I said before, Troy Dye, Kayvon Thibodeau, I would really am interested to see how their production is going to be in the Auburn game, considering whomever may be the quarterback for the Auburn Tigers. So, the spring game, I think, for the Oregon Ducks was, very, very productive. I saw some things as far as physicality. They really love to run the football. Justin Herbert obviously shows some ability to run the ball. Of course, the quarterbacks, there was a no contact rule, as it is very, very traditional in a spring game, because obviously you don't want to get the quarterback hurt. But when we look at the Oregon Ducks, these guys are a lot more physical and will probably be outside of conference, in my opinion, based on what I saw, will probably emulate more of an SEC team than I thought. These guys are very physical. They're very big. They're very active on defense. They threw a nice little screen pass that went for some yards. So they definitely have a lot of speed at the skill position set. So we look forward continually as we continue coverage of the Oregon Ducks and Auburn Tigers, leading up to probably what's going to be the best or the most highly anticipated game of that day. Is definitely going to be something interesting to look at. The anticipation is very high. We just really want to see how these two teams will match up, and I think it's going to be probably one of the more entertaining games of the 2019 season. Big shout out to Justin Herbert, Troy Dye, and Kayvon Thibodeau. I think those are some very talented guys up there in Eugene, Oregon, as we look at the Oregon Ducks taking on the Auburn Tigers in Arlington, Texas. For the Advocare Classic, we also can't discount Auburn, who is coming back with a fierce load of skilled players. A lot of guys who actually did not play in the spring game. We're talking Anthony Schwartz, Sean Shivers, who have track obligations. A few guys were injured, and a couple of guys like Mark Anthony Richards and Charles Moore on the defensive end, who has not arrived on campus yet, but we look forward to an action-packed Advocare Classic. I just had to, after watching the spring game for the Oregon Ducks, it kind of changed my vantage point as to what we're looking at as far as the Oregon Ducks. This is going to be a very, very physical game. And as I look at it, I just saw a pass to the Penn State transfer in the corner. I don't know if that was a catch or not. I'm not hating, but I don't know if that's a catch or not. But anyway, got Fearless and True Gang. I really enjoy doing this for us now at this point, giving us a platform for us to do analysis and really talk about how we think the Auburn Tigers are going to turn out. And now that we have obviously some Oregon Ducks who like to kind of chime in from time to time, Let's get in the comment section and let me know what you thought about Oregon's spring game and your perception of Oregon football and Auburn as well. Of course, this is an Auburn channel, but we talk a lot about this Advocare Classic because it's a very highly anticipated game and so consequential for both teams involved. Once again, it's K-Stu to go for Vernon Speak Sports. We're talking Auburn football. We analyze and debate like no other channel. Comment on this particular video. Put some suggestions as to what you want to hear next. But more importantly, at least for the moment, let's go ahead and subscribe to the channel. War Eagle.